it going? Welcome to Going Beyond Pain. Hi, Hope. So I wanted to do this call today because I, well, I think that pain is kind of an interesting category, and in reality, pain is an invention and a lie. And I think that we spend a lot of time living in an invention and a lie. And it's like one of the, oh, it's so nice to see you guys coming on here, all my friends. But it's like, when we are, dealing with pain, one of the things that we have to remember is that pain is actually a power. And pain is a power that allows us to frack the insanity. And fracking the insanity is this place where you are taking the thing that you hate the most, which is pain, and actually using it to create greater. And when Gary had shingles last year, one of the things that he realized is that pain is actually a power that we can use to frack the insanity. So if you guys know, like in oil, how you frack something, it's like you actually, like, I don't know, they like put that thing in the ground and then they break up all the rocks so that the oil comes out. The way that we do it with fracking the insanity is our pain is used as an energy to actually like go into the earth or go into the insanity, frack it so the consciousness can come up. And he realized he had a day where he was going, oh my God, if I continued in this much pain, I would rather be dead. And he's like, whoa, like, who does that belong to? And what is that? And he realized that because pain is something we avoid and spend our lives running away from, that it actually has a tremendous level of power. And so, I love the tool fracking, the insanity, and it's one of the tools that I see people maybe don't use as much as they could. And that's why I wanted to get on here today and talk about it, because it's just been such a gift to me. And it's one of those tools that works so well and so fast. And something that I really, really see can change a lot of things when we actually go ahead and do it. So, so let's start. And this is a beginner's call, or well, it's kind of everything. Some of you have been in Access for decades, but it is, for all intents and purposes, a beginner's call. And so what I am using here are the tools of Access Consciousness, and it's a modality that I've been using to change. I've used it to change every area of my life, and I've been practicing it since 2011, and what I see available with Access is that people really, really are able to simplify their lives and expand their lives at the same time. One of the, I want to get around to actually doing some fracking, because I just think it's such an amazing tool, and I wanted to do this as a group. But one of the things that stops us from, well, the main thing that stops us from being the brilliance that we are is the unwillingness to have a life that's too easy. I mean, it's like when you are having things going your way and you're having things work in your life, where is your stopping point? Where is the amount of ease that you will not go beyond? And so then in order to not go beyond, in order to not have that level of ease, we tend to stop what we can receive, we tend to stop what we can be, and we tend to create a place where we have to make things hard. So what is the amount of ease that you are willing to receive, and where do you stop with having ease? And so everything that is times a godzillion will you guys destroy and then create that. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pot and pock, shorts, boys and beyonds. And what do you love about being normal, average, real, and the same as everybody else? And everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and then create it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pot and pock, shorts, boys and beyonds. Cool. Does anybody have any questions before we get into the fracking? Any questions about your pain? So, so let's start and so I want you guys to get, like, what's the area of your life that you create the most pain in? Okay. Is it money? Is it body? Is it relationship? Is it sex? And look at what for you've created as the greatest source of pain. Somebody's saying body in the chat. Okay. So a lot of people are saying body. Some people are saying emotional. Okay, cool. So get that pain, and I want you to like perceive the potency of that pain. Not the wrongness of it, but the potency of it. Okay? Now use that pain to frack. So let's do some fracking. So 1, 2, 3, frack, 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 and 1, 2, 3, frack. Awesome. Hoo, hoo, hoo. How does it get better than that? Awesome. Well, Kempe says, cool. Awesome. So that's basically all I wanted to get on here and say. I just really wanted to reignite that tool and create a bit of change in your guys' worlds. Does anybody have any questions? If there's no questions about pain,
sorry, I have a question.
Hi, Dana.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. So I've never been introduced to the fracking tool before. So when you just said go for it, I just was kind of copying you. But is it like, can you give us any more information about what we're doing, or like when to use this tool? Or
yeah, so well, what you're doing is what I described at the beginning. You're using the power of the pain to frack the insanity. So think of the insanity as the bedrock, and think of the consciousness as the oil. Oh, Teresa is loud. Teresa Finnegan, if you could mute yourself, I would be most grateful. So you want to actually think of the insanity as the bedrock. So you have to use the power of the pain, which is like the oil crusher thing, to actually be the power that gets through the bedrock to get the consciousness to come up. Okay, so, and my disclaimer is access consciousness does not support oil fracking. This is just a principle. But it's like, it's like, where do you guys let your pain be something that creates you as normal, rather than where do you use your pain as something that can allow you to go beyond normal? Okay? Because we tend to want to be normal. It's like if you were being you all the time, you would scare everybody out of your life. And one of my favorite things I've ever learned in Access is that you've got to be willing to be so different that nobody wants to talk to you. And you've got to be so different that you scare people. And so it's like, I have, people in my life, and it's like, they just can't exactly seem to get together with me. They can't exactly seem to be around me because it's too uncomfortable for them. And it's like, are you willing to be that different? Are you willing to be you so much that you are willing to make other people uncomfortable? Or do you want to be seen and heard and validated and loved? So so that's the exact, like, how you do it, Dana. And then where do you apply it? That's a great question. And so you apply it when you have pain. And you go, okay, so is this pain a wrongness, or is this pain a power that I can use? So it's very easy to use it. You know, it's like if money stuff comes up and you're like, oh, I can't afford that. That's a pain. Okay, so you use that pain. If you have a pain in your body, you go, that's a pain. Marita says she fracked and her neck pain is still there. Yeah, that's something you're going to have to frack at least 3 times a day for a week in order to change. Okay, so because there's a lot of thick bedrock of insanity, and until you are willing to break up that insanity, the pain, well, it's pretty fast to be, oh, uh-oh, somebody stole my charger. It's pretty fast, to be honest. Like once you do it, it might take less than a week, but I would say give it that much, and you're not going to overdo it, because it's like the more that you do it, the less pain you have in your life. Okay. Sam says, how many times should you do the frac sequence? I don't know, as many as you're aware to do. 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, somewhere in there. Just ask, what are you aware of? So, and we have a hierarchy of pain. We have the worst pains and the less bad pains. So it's like, so it's like money would be high on the pain list. Body can be high on the pain list. And then things like being annoyed at somebody would be like lower on your pain list. So anything that is a pain, though, like look at it and look at your life and go, what have I created as a pain? Okay. And then from there, it's like, what have I created as a pain? And then what can I frack here? And how can I use this pain to actually create greater? Okay. So everything that is, and everything, somebody stole my charger, and everything that doesn't allow you to use your pain to change the future, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, all 9 podcasts, shorts, with me. Loneliness is pain. Boredom is pain. Okay, those are other types of pain. So look at that and then use that to actually change things. Here we go, I got another charger in the other room. So does that help, Dana?
Yeah, I guess I was specifically thinking about, like, my low back hurts right now, but I have to teach a bunch of yoga tonight. So I'm like, oh, eventually tonight I'll feel better because I'll be moving. But it's still very much in the form and structure of, like, it takes this.
And when we have back pain, like one of the questions that I'll often hear Gary ask is like, what power and potency are you hiding behind you? Not that Dana would hide any power or potency behind her. Not at all. Not that her whole life is dedicating to hiding everything about her. Oh, yes, it is.
Got nothing there. I don't have to there, right?
So, and not being you is the greatest pain that there is. You know, I've been reading lately the No Exclusion chapter from the 10 Keys to Freedom, and I've read it 3 times. And I put an Instagram story out the other day about this, and I was reading it, and Gary was talking about his grandson who was 3 months old at the time, and his mommy brought him to a 7-day in New Zealand, and everybody at the 7-day would talk to the baby, and then they went to a restaurant somewhere else, and the waiter was like, oh, it's a baby, you ignore a baby, or you just like, whatever. And so the baby was like, the waiter would come near the table and the baby would go, and the waiter the waiter wouldn't interact with the baby, and the baby was like, what's going on here? Because it's like the baby was used to being included, and I was thinking, I used to do a lot of sociology, and that was my degree in college was sociology. And like, they always talk about how when people aren't included, in their own families, it's like that's when they do criminal activity, or they need to join a gang, and so it's like that kind of goes back to the key of no exclusion. And it's like we tend to watch the people around us not be included unless they're validated by others. So your only basis for inclusion and communion, but it's not communion, your only basis for inclusion is being validated by other people. And so we don't see people including themselves, their beings in their own lives. And Marilena, are you able to mute yourself? You keep coming off mute and making noise. So with that, it's like you want to create a place where you include your being in your life, which is the antithesis of what most people do. And I notice that the more that I include my being, the more success that I have in every single area. Because you can't have success while excluding your very being. And so it was interesting. I love the story about the baby, because it's like we are the baby and we're like, somebody like include me, and then we perceive like our families excluding their own beings. And so we exclude our own beings. It's not normal to have you, and an amazing example of people who actually include their beings in their life are my stepkids. Because my husband, they've been in Access since they were like 2. And my husband always taught them to include their own point of view and their own being in their lives. And so they are intact beings. Okay? And that's what Access is about. It's empowering you to be an intact being. Not somebody who has to hide your power, not somebody who has to hide your potency, because you can't be the leader you are, but not be present. You're like literally like hiding in a shoebox somewhere. You're like putting your being your shoebox in the back of your closet underneath like 1,000 other boxes, and the being's like, let me out. And it's like you can't have a successful life if your being is excluded. And it's like I like want to be my stepkids when I grow up, because they're like included in their own lives, and like watching them choose things, they just choose, and they know what their choice is, and they know what their point of view is. Like when we go for ice cream, Aria's like, she's 11 and she'll be like, I'd like the vanilla with the sprinkles in the waffle cone. And I'm like, I would be the one sitting there being like, but if I choose the chocolate cherry Garcia, then like something really bad could happen, because it's like I have it, I've had to learn. I've learned from them to choose and to know what I actually like, because I had this idea that I had to choose right rather than choose what I'd like, and that's what we're taught in this reality, to choose what's right rather than to choose what we like. And I talk about this and I preach this on every call, but it's like people want to change this and they want to put their beings back intact. The number one way to do that is to get out of being right. And what I have done is I have listened to Ann Maxwell's Rightness Clearing Loop for a year, and it's changed so much for me. I didn't realize how right I was trying to be. And it's like, and I'm going to put that clearing loop link under here. It's very inexpensive, and you get 4 clearing loops and 4 PDFs. And it's like, I am like a walking commercial for Anne's clearing loop, because it's like, I can't even imagine. I was actually having a conversation with Gary, and he's like, Julia, all you want to do is be right. He's like, you buy Anne's clearing loop and I will not be speaking to you again until you've listened to it 50 times. I was like, okay. Because it's like, not like, these things can't work. You can't actually put yourself, it's like Humpty Dumpty. We're like Humpty Dumpty and we fell down the hill and we need to put ourselves back together again. But it's like, we lose parts and pieces of ourselves, and it just doesn't work. It's a very uncomfortable life. And then when you start, most people have no sense of their beings intact, and then, they just suppress that fact, and they don't ever look at this, and they don't ever go here, and they don't ever explore this. So it's like, this is what access consciousness is. It's exploring these things that are, take a lot of vulnerability and actually a huge level of intelligence to even begin to have these conversations about being you, and being, changing the world, being you, and like picking up the parts and pieces of your being that you have lost along the way, and it's hard because it feels like you're the most screwed up person in the world, when you look at like how much of you you've hidden or how much of you you've put behind yourself. But you're not. Everybody has this going on. Everybody. It's just a matter of who's willing to actually deal with it and who wants to suppress it. And it takes an incredible amount of vulnerability to deal with it and to learn not to exclude yourself from your own life. So, and Jean put my clearing loop in there. That's awesome. So it's like you've got to look at it and you've got to go, what else is possible? And if I really like the baby story, because I looked at it and I was like, I could think of myself like that. I'm like, as a baby, where am I the baby that's like, hey, why aren't you talking to me? And it's like, you're the being, and it's like, you have to start talking to yourself. It's like, we think that like a relationship is going to be the person who's going to include us. And that, we all know, we've all done enough relationships to know that that certainly doesn't work out very well for anybody. So it's like, I watched, I came to Access looking for my Prince Charming and thinking that that was going to be what would make my life work. And it didn't. It's like asking somebody to like love you and care about you is pretty much impossible, because people don't have the ability to do that for themselves. How are they possibly going to do that for you? And if they do have the ability to do that for themselves and you don't have the ability to do that for you, they're probably not going to want to have a relationship with you. Okay? So it's like, which is almost impossible because there's like 4 people on the planet who have the ability to do that anyways. But it's like, it's like, what are you going to have to be for you? And I came to a crossroads. I was actually sitting exactly where I'm sitting right now. And I was sitting and I was like, this whole Cinderella thing was breaking down for me. And this whole idea that like, having the right relationship would make my life better was starting to break down in my world. And I looked at it and I was like, I have done a lot of hoping and dreaming that things would work out well and that everything would be better in my life. And, and I looked at it and I went, if I never choose this, like there's never going to be a day where somebody's going to reach out and say, Julia, you need to choose this. Like I realized I could live and die mediocre and normal, and that might happen if I don't choose different. Like I will live and die a boring, regular life if I don't choose differently, if I don't choose otherwise. And I was like really disappointed at first. It was like a hard, tough, painful pill to swallow, because like, we want, that's why everybody wants to be a celebrity, or everybody wants to have $1 million, or everybody wants to have whatever their fantasy is. It's like, because that's how we think we will finally be included. But that doesn't work. How are you actually going to be included? And where is your point of view going to come from? And where are you going to start? Like, when will you start fighting for you? Like, you know, taking your being out of the shoebox in the bottom of the closet. And so I just started, like, when I realized that, I just started like cleaning out the closet and being like, where is the shoebox with my being? You know, and I had to, like, I found some really gnarly, like bug infested boxes along the way. And I was like, whoa, don't want to know that about myself. That's why everything in my life isn't working in that area, because I'm like, you know, have that nasty, disgusting point of view that really doesn't work. And then it's like I found all these other boxes that were like, whoa, I'm really brilliant in that area, and whoa, I've really got a lot of, you know, courage in that area. And so it's like, you know, you look and you find all of these parts of yourself, and in that, it's not actually you're being in one shoebox. That's not a very good analogy, but it's like you get more and more and more of you back, and you stop being excluded from your life. And you know, I study access probably more so than most people out there, but I do that because it gives me parts and pieces of my being back. Like every time I read a book or I read a chapter or I listen to a call, it's like I get something back that I lost a long, long time ago in a land far away. And so that's why I do it so much, is because I like being empowered, and I like having my being intact, and I like having my life work. Having my life not work is really painful. And, you know, I really liked that pain for a long time. Like that pain kept me normal, kept me average, kept me not having to be judged by other people. My family was like all cool with me. My sister said to me the other day, I was like, I've hit a milestone. Because my sister was like, Julia, we've given up on you. Like, we know we can't make you do anything. She's like, no matter which way I judge you, you are not listening to me. And I was like, yeah. You know, and actually I have an awesome relationship with my sister. She's totally amazing, but it was really funny. She's just like, we just can't with you. Because I had traveled, oh, I know what we were talking about. I traveled to like all the states with the most coronavirus just because I had like different things going on. And she's like, oh, I just can't with you anymore. I can't control you. And it's like, but it's like, you know, what if you were the uncontrollable element, and what if you were the uncontrollable item, and what if you had every part of you put back together again, and you were an infinite being, and you knew that you could change the, you know, you knew that you could change the orbit of the stars, you know? It's like if that's possible, like for me, that's what I wanted to have, you know? And it's like what else are you going to spend your life doing? You know, you can only work a regular job and masturbate for so long before it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. So it's like, you know, what else is possible? And you know, when you and it's not easy. I mean, it's like there's like things that I really didn't want to know about myself, but there's also things that are great that I really didn't want to know about myself too. So it's like, you know, it's about being vulnerable and about being more of who you are. So yeah, awesome, cool. So also, if you're, you know, it's like with the lower back problems, it's like, you know, what have you got going on that you don't want to know you got going on? What kind of power and potency do you have that you refuse to know that you have? Okay, awesome. Cool. Does anybody else have questions? We'll go for a couple more minutes. Thanks, Dana. Kempe says, thank you, Julia. You're welcome, Kempe. Faiza says, is there a book in Access on pain and healing it? Yeah. I don't know where my copy is, but we have a book called Curing the Incurable. I don't know where it is. But there's Right Body for You, which is a whole bunch about pain, and then Curing the Incurable. So those are two really cool books about pain. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you for being here. Oh, Dana just unmuted herself. She has another question.
Well, it was just that part of the question at the end, and thank you. Really, I'm gonna re-listen to this and take all this in.
Yeah.
But that part about that habit of like, I have pain, so I'll do this thing later. Just this morning, I was talking to someone about how I've been doing this process for like every day for a month, and I'm just like waiting for the results. And they were sort of like, "Oh, it sounds like you've given your power to the process rather than just making a choice." So it feels kind of similar of like, if I do this thing, then it'll get better. If I listen to the rightness clearings enough times, it'll all get better rather
But it
than,
does. It does all get better if you listen to it. I mean, I would have a slightly different point of view that, like, you can choose. And we say in Access that, you know, one choice is more powerful than 1,000 clearing statements. And it is. But there are also places where we don't have a whole lot of choice going on in that area. So the clearing statements are designed to open up that area so that choice becomes available. So I would look at it a slightly different way. But it's like when, you know, when I have, you can, it is, there is a place where you can just choose something different and you don't have to rely on anything. There will come a day where we don't have to sit around and pock and pod all the time, or we just know, who does this belong to? It just, where you're like, obviously it doesn't belong to us. What would it take for that to be the common point of view on planet Earth? It's like, yeah, it doesn't belong to me. And it's like, but it's like, right now, there is a place for the clearing statements, I would say. And I would agree with this person that you don't want to make it all about the clearing statement, because a choice is 1,000 times more powerful, because it will change the trajectory of your future. Every choice changes your future. So yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I hope this helped with, we're just doing a quick 35-minute thing. And, what, I read, right now I'm really into the 10 Keys to Freedom. And it's like, I see that as a very ignored place where we can actually find a lot of possibilities. And there is a book called, and we can put these all in the YouTube link, because this class will go up on YouTube. But we can put these in the YouTube link. But it's like, when we look at these 10 keys, it's like they have the ability, they are tools that have the ability to give you what you need to know to have all of you back in your life. Okay? So I love it. It's awesome. And thank you guys so much for being here for our short Zoom. And, use the fracking, use the 10 keys to freedom, and ask, what is valuable about me that I am refusing to perceive, know, be, and receive. And that will start to give you parts and pieces of you back that you've been missing for a long time. And when you have all of you, you have won the lottery. You have become the most, sought after celebrity. You are the most popular, successful person. And then the other thing is, nobody can see it, but you know that you are, and you have this whole other life that nobody else has available. So it's like, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's like you keep using these tools, it happens faster than you want to know. So how does it get better? Thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.